Hi, welcome to Gehenna Gaming, where we tell dark stories and support inclusivity in gaming. Tonight we're playing Sleepaway, a collaborative storytelling game where the players not only embody the camp counselor archetype, but also parts of the camp itself. It's a queer summer camp horror game by J Dragon, and you can find a link to the game in chat. Sleepaway may contain themes of body horror, insects, occult themes, drama, and romance. And in this particular episode, things might get very dark. We all know our lines and veils, and we have safety systems in place to avoid discomfort. But if something really starts to freak you out, please take care of yourself. But before we introduce our players and begin our game, I'd like to quickly thank our sponsors, Die Hard Dice, 1985 Games, and Session Zero Clothing. Use code Gehenna at checkout at any of these companies to get 10% off your purchase. Also, Virtual Horror Con, the world's first entirely digital horror convention, is coming next month. Learn more and buy tickets at virtualhorrorcon.com. Finally, I want to wish everyone a happy Pride Month from myself and from Gehenna Gaming and from this amazing cast. What a wonderful time to be doing some really scary stuff. That also happens to be gay. And with that, let's introduce our players. So I'm going to start. I'm Paula. I use she, her pronouns. You can find me at Art and Audio on Twitter, and I will be playing Amalia the Heron. Let's jump to Diana.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diana D'Amico. Hey. I'd say I'm playing Gerty, but I've made a choice since Gerty is dead at present. I'm just gonna play Trips this entire episode.
Just
hope
tips.
That's cool.
Oh no, we love that. All right, Lex.
Hi, I'm Lex. You can find me on all the social medias and OnlyFans and all that good stuff as a redhead vixen. And today I am playing maybe Beau, maybe a dead body. Roleplay challenge accepted.
Hamna.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hamna, and I use any and all pronouns. You can find me on Twitter at @shahid_. And today I will be playing one of the alive characters, Umar Ghazi, who uses they, them pronouns.
Rub it in.
Look, that was a choice y'all made. Umar is the Fresh Blood playbook.
And Nikki.
Hi everyone, it's Nikki. You can find me online at the Wig DM, and I am also playing a currently still alive for now character, Lapis Lazuli, the crafter, who uses she/her pronouns.
All right, I think that's everything. So with that, let's tell a campfire story. So, to recap, there's a lot to go over. Last episode, we found Beau sitting on the edge of the dock, recovering from the ritual. They were approached by Gerty, who attempted to comfort them, despite an obvious fear of being near the lake. Amalia approached soon after, and the two convinced Beau to come back, even though he didn't feel completely himself. Gerty took that as confirmation that she could flee to her woods, and Beau and Amalia spoke for a moment, with Amalia apologizing for not being around as much. And by the end, Beau felt less cold and alone, with the chosen favorite of our Lady Oubliette moving to Amalia. During this time, Lapis and Umar were in the bunks contending with a troublesome camper Tips in what will probably be my favorite scene of the series. Beau approached the pair and informed them that we all need to meet by the old bunks to discuss the Lindworm's inevitable return. On the way, they were stopped by another counselor, Benji, who mistook their intentions and urged the trio to use protection. Meanwhile, Amalia wandered into the woods to find Gerty and eventually discovered her scared and alone beneath a tree. The two discussed what might happen next. Amalia shared her anxieties, and Gerty offered that imagining everything is fine has worked for her. The two shared an incredibly awkward kiss, which quickly devolved into a mud fight. Lapis and Umar discovered the duo and quickly joined in, causing Beau to lose his temper and storm off towards the old bunks. When everyone arrived, however, it was a trap. A circle of red mushrooms had been laid in the cabin, and the ritual, the Withering, was triggered, killing both Beau and Gerty in the process. When the ritual ended, Amalia declared that she knew what to do and started heading towards the lake with Umar and Lapis. So that's what happened last time, and it was a lot. We're going to jump right into the ritual Death's Journey, which I can trigger as Amalia with a strong move. So I'll mark that token. Let me tell you all about Death's Journey. The mist at the edge of the lake is all-consuming. As your canoes push past the veil into the realms of death, the condensation against the back of your throat tastes like mothballs and stale air. You have found yourselves in a cold and heartbroken land. Listen to your guide. Break even a single rule and you'll find it impossible to leave. Follow your heart, and whatever you do, don't look back. Someday the green grass of home will rest against your skin once more, but for now there is only the ice of death itself. This ritual is initiated by the Heron and used to rescue someone from the realm of death. Someone's. I'm trying for 2. We'll see what happens.
Can I ask if
Yes.
Amalia is leading us into this ritual, specifically literally through the land of the dead, would that count as you inviting us over a threshold for me and Numar?
So I would say after Amalia said that she knew what to do, she just started walking with the assumption that you two followed all the way to the edge of the dock where there was a canoe tied off. She gets into the canoe and holds out her hand, offering you both to get in, and that would be the threshold. So if you get in the canoe, you both get a token.
Great. And Lapis gets in.
I think Umar stands there a little bit nervous at first, looking around at the lake, remembering what Gerty and Beau had said before constantly about the lake being dangerous, about you shouldn't go into the lake, you shouldn't go into the lake. And they look down at Amalia's hand, they take it, and they step into the boat.
All right. Starting the ritual, the Heron chooses a single law of death that doesn't have to be followed, and then say the name of the person you're here to rescue. Silence, a brief moment of everyone holding their breath. Before we do that, I want to read aloud the laws of death because I think that would be helpful, but the rest of the moves I'll leave for us to narrate as they're relevant. So our laws of death are: do not step off the boat, do not touch the water, do not say anyone's names, don't fall asleep, don't spill your own blood, and don't look back. The rule that we don't have to follow this go around is do not touch anyone else. So we can hold each other if we need to.
We can't hold hands, but we can hold each other.
We can hold hands. That's not allowed, at least in the current state of the game. So I think Amalia's standing at the front of this canoe, looking out onto the lake, which there is so much mist in the lake, it looks like there is no other side. It just goes on and on and on. And she says, Beau and Gerty. And she sits down and starts to row.
Umar sits behind Amalia. I think probably Umar is the one in the middle of the boat, with Lapis behind them and Amalia in front of them. And they sit here. And Question for you, Amalia. Would you have told us at all about what the laws of death specifically are? Warned
That's a
us or
good
prepared us in
question.
any way?
I think for the sake of this, as she starts rowing out, she just says, and doesn't say like, these are the laws of death. If you break them, bad things happen. She just says, don't step off the boat. Don't touch the water. Like, runs through them all. And doesn't say necessarily you're allowed to touch each other, but doesn't not say it. And says it with a level of gravity that implies it's important. And Lapis, although you haven't been on death's journey, you have been saved by it. So there is some familiarity, but not much.
There's almost a cold chill that goes up when Lapis realizes what's happening. And I think at this point, when you begin to row and that like breath of we have started this journey, her eyes for a moment just look very dull as her magic stops working, or the magic leaves her for the duration of this, because this is not her realm. The magic does not follow her here.
You, Lapis, only remember the return journey, so it is now coming into your mind that this happened, this part occurred for you at one point. I will also say that the two players who are not canonically a part of this ritual at the moment can perform moves that make sense for you to perform, so you can narrate things to your heart's content as well, if you want to.
I do think Lapis is holding on to Umar's like the edge of your shirt, just like keeping you tethered or her tethered. It's not explained.
It's hard to tell. Maybe a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Omar probably feels this like tugging on the back of their shirt, and for a moment they kind of like want to turn around and like look back at Lapis. And then,
Lapis catches your cheek and like pushes you forward. Don't
right
look back.
And Omar looks down at, instead, just to look at something, instead of just all of this mist that is pressing in on them from every direction. They look down, and probably that was a mistake, because I imagine either like Gerty and Beau's bodies at this point have been like placed in the canoe. And they look down at them, take a deep inhale, like right through their teeth, and then kind of hold it.
Amalia keeps rowing. She's looking straight ahead, so her back is to the two of you, and she's not turning around. All you can see is tense shoulders and just stillness.
I think as you continue rowing, Umar and Lapis, you kind of take note of the moment at which the noises from the shore, the sounds of the campers in the distance, the birds, even the sound of the wind, it all stops. You don't even hear the oars like breaking the surface of the water as Amalia rows. It is dead silent.
Catching this silence, Umar tries to whistle. Does any sound come out?
I think that as Umar whistles, the sound is almost caught up by the water and returned back to them. Something that's a little too genuine to be an echo, but not quite an answer.
And hearing that, hearing what might be another person, another version of me out there somewhere, Umar kind of like their eyes start to like flick around the lake, trying to find the source of this echo, not echo, that came back at them.
It's strange. It doesn't feel like you've been out on the water for that long, but glancing around, you can't see the dock, you can't see the shore, you can't see the far shore of the lake. You can't see the rocks where people thought they saw a witch some years back. You can't see anything but the ripples on the surface of the water and mist in the distance.
I would like to invite the Lindworm to act upon the party.
Interesting.
You know.
No, usually rituals are closed systems, but technically it's not impossible to have that happen. So I say we just go for it.
What could
So-
go wrong?
What could
Got the
Let's
Lindworm
take-
interrupting.
Let's take a pause within this pause of a ritual and turn to the Lindworm tab. I have to get my deck. I wasn't ready. Okay.
I was like, I felt the silence and I was like, oh, this would be a great place. So like, I was like, oh wait,
Sure.
we're doing a ritual?
First one, the Queen of Spades. My children hunt. Add the wolves setting element. Second one, the Two of Spades. Their body is my plaything. Destroy a minor character card who is not a camper. That character's body is now the Lindworm's form. Do not roleplay as the Lindworm. Remember, the Lindworm is a shapeshifter that steals people's skins, so... The last one is the Eight of Clubs. Mistakes, manipulation. Campers have started playing with animal bones. Who? We got 3 dark ones, y'all. If you are not the Lindworm, get out of the tab, stop looking, and have the Lindworm not only select which of the 3 we will move with, but also who it is directed at. I saw mentions of old Benji in our chat. Technically, he is removed from the cork board, but I feel like it could work. So he's technically not there. But, you know, whatever. We don't have many options of characters, and some of them aren't fully fleshed out, and that's okay. You can come back if you've moved away from the tab. Y'all. The selection was mistakes, manipulation. Campers have started playing with animal bones. Who? Directed at Umar Kazi. Of course, we can rewrite however we need to, given there are no campers in this boat. It could be something we come across upon our return. But what are we thinking?
So I do like the idea of leaving the camper part for after this ritual is done.
Yeah.
But I see that Diana has a thought.
Well, I'm wondering if, you know what, I'm going to hold on to it because I feel like it'll be answered in time. I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to.
I'm so intrigued. I'm so intrigued what this
terrifying.
means.
Right?
I'm okay with seeing campers play with animal bones because that totally seems like a Gomez thing. Just
It's
absolutely
Gomez,
looks
and
like a
that's
Gomez
normal.
thing.
He plays
Yes.
with human bones, baby.
We're not even gonna notice. We're just gonna walk past, and he's like, "Hey," and we're like, "Hey."
Just another day. Just another. Omar.
Gomez is a
Just
treasure.
like that. Is there anything we want to have happen now while we're in this ritual, or would we rather this card be waiting when we return?
I'm cool with this card waiting.
I also have a manipulation idea.
Okay.
I think, and feel free to reject the idea, Umar, but you were the one who looked down at the body, so I think it's entirely possible for you to consider manipulating Amalia to bring back the correct person, whatever you think correct may be.
I don't have to be the only one to make a decision.
No
okay,
pressure.
I love that. I love
pressure.
that. That's
Who do you like more? No big deal.
Who's your favorite?
I love that.
I also have a
Oh.
question.
Keeping in mind that you
give-
forgot the moment you and Beau.
I want to add something else so Hamna can have a moment to think about this big decision. Since the Lindworm is acting while we are in this boat, potentially while Umar is looking down at these two bodies, I'd like to ask the owners of those bodies, does anything happen? We're out on the lake. Maybe lifeless isn't really hard and fast rule here? Is there anything Umar sees when they look down at the bodies? It could be nothing, that's fine too.
I think it's very plausible that somewhere deep in her subconscious, Gerty knows she's on the water. So I think when you look down at her, she's white as a sheet and her knuckles are clenched. So they're white as well. And truthfully, she looks like she's been dead for a week, probably. Completely exsanguinated, just like fucked up.
And I think Beau's almost the exact opposite. Even though the two bodies were loaded into the boat, carefully, at some point, and you're not sure when exactly, Beau's arm sort of got over the edge and is just close to skimming the top of the water.
Seeing that Beau's arm is like almost skimming the top of the water, I think Omar like quickly leans forward, like takes Beau's arm and like pulls it back into the boat, remembering that we are not supposed to touch the water. And they're not quite sure if that applies to the folks that are dead here as well, but just in case, Omar does it. And as they do so, I think they feel an uncharacteristic like warmth kind of fill them in that moment that feels just completely out of place here when we're surrounded by mist out on the lake, and there's been so much like cold and like tendrily ice kind of like filling us. And I think here Omar makes a decision within themselves that if we can only save one, I mean, ideally we get both back. That is the plan. That's what Amalia said we were going to do. That is the plan. But if we can only save one, I think in this moment Umar makes the decision that it has to be Beau. They don't quite know why. They feel that way. But something is kind of like pulling them towards that. And it honestly kind of confuses them as well. Because for all they know, they hate Beau. Beau hates them too.
Could I use one of Gertie's strong moves in this moment?
Why not?
It relates to the piece with the campers and the bones. Is that okay with everybody? I think in this moment on the boat, where everything seems so still and timeless, it's very juxtaposed to what's happening back at camp, where the campers are. It's like is it morning? Did we decide it was morning? It's 10 a.m. It's 10 a.m. and everybody's got their like high energy. Everybody's finished breakfast. They're running around. They're in between activities, and I think we kind of slow on Anahera and Gomez on the beach, and there's still a little bit of tension there from their interaction regarding the jacket, but it seems to have blown over like kids do with fights. They just kind of move on. And I think standing on the shore, Gomez has found a washed up dead fish or something that fell prey to natural death. And in a moment of very odd clarity, Gomez is going to reach down and pick up that fish with its bones sticking out. And he'll kind of glance at Anahara and then walk towards the woods. And on the tree line, he'll turn to them and just say, "This way it'll feed something bigger and better," and tosses the corpse of that fish into the woods.
And what was the move you're using for context?
Reinterpret the Lindworm's actions through the woods.
Excellent.
Omar leans forward, I think, towards Amalia as she's rowing, and like in a very hushed tone whispers to her, "How far do we have to go?"
We're almost there. I don't see them yet, but they should be here.
I think Lapis is like trying not to hold Umar back as he's they're looking down at the two bodies and adjusting and then leaning over to Amalia. But Lapis lets go for just a moment, just as she feels something tug her shirt from behind, and it freaks her out. And you hear her make a loud like noise as she like rocks the boat for just a second, and then she tries to recorrect. As she does this, that book of stickers that she always has on her falls out of her pocket and goes into the water. I don't know if that was still on the table or not.
Yeah, lose an item that matters to you in the still water.
Yep. So, stickers go into the water. And Lapis is like, "Sorry."
It's okay, don't go after them. They're gone.
Okay.
And I think Amalia, as she reaches the point that she's used to getting to find people, she catches a glimpse of someone just standing on top of the water, just out, silhouetted by the mist. Is that one person or two?
Omar looks in the direction that Amalia is looking. "I think that's one." And then Amalia, in the same distance away from you, but in the opposite direction, you see a second figure.
And I feel like they're relatively identifiable given that the silhouettes of Beau and Gerty are rather different. Okay. Then it's one at a time. Who shall we start with?
Go for Beau. I think he's closer.
Okay. And Amalia starts to row towards the Beau silhouette. And when she gets close enough, it's sort of this hanging spirit. What does Beau look like in this state? Separated from his body.
Separated from his body, I think Beau, while the shape of him was easily recognizable up close, a lot of what Beau was life. It was all very jubilant and boyish and vibrant. And so in this moment of just spirit, Beau doesn't appear to look particularly peaceful. Beau appears undone by what he is at the moment.
Seeing this, Amalia doesn't look back, but just holds one hand behind her and puts it on the side of the canoe just to feel for like someone behind her.
Omar reaches forward when they see Amalia's hand, and they will follow her lead and put their other hand back for Lapis.
Lapis is hesitant and confused for a moment, and she reaches her hand back. It takes her a minute.
But I
And-
think... Oh,
yeah.
go.
Go ahead, please.
No, go.
Amalia, when she is semi-certain a chain has been formed between the three of them, although cannot check, reaches her other hand forward to grab onto Beau's wrist and starts to pull him in to the canoe.
As you're pulling Beau in through the canoe, I think like Umar sees what you're doing and like tries to help by like leaning back a little bit, but as they do so, they realize that they're not actually pulling you in any way, and they get confused and they look down at their hand and they realize they're not actually holding your hand at all. It felt like your hand for sure. It was solid. It was, I think maybe in the past, like Amalia has held Umar's hand before and it felt just like that, but it's not there anymore. And instead they look up and they see Amalia, your hand, like just kind of like floating, like just out as if you were still asking for it to be held.
And I think with it floating almost up, just waiting for something, it drifts out and is drifting above the water. But she gives the last tug and pulls Beau into the boat. Does Beau come back into the boat?
Yeah, I think Beau at first has hold of Amalia's hand, but ends up almost pulling themselves hand over hand, like they were taking a tow from a rope back to shore, as they go along Amalia's arm and then along Umar's arm, and then reach out to Lapis, one of the people that they were most connected to right before what happened. And by traveling along these three people who Beau knew so well, he's able to make contact with the body, his own body, again, and climb back into the warmth.
Okay. Beau, can you hear me? Doesn't look back.
And it's almost that very dramatic moment where there's no movement from the body, and then suddenly Beau's no longer body gives a jolt and a gasp and sits bolt upright, I guess in front of Umar, and is now looking into the back of Amalia.
When Amalia hears the breath, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't step off the boat. Don't touch the water. Don't say anyone's name. Don't fall asleep. Don't spill your own blood, and don't look back.
And Amalia, of course, can't see Beau nodding, but Umar from behind would see it.
Okay, let's get the other one. And Amalia starts to reorient the boat and start to turn, and is heading for the other silhouette that was presented. And it doesn't take long to get to the other location, since we are essentially, there's no shore, it's just mist. Space is different here. What does Gerty look like?
Well, I think it was actually quicker to approach Gerty's figure than you realized, because she was coming to meet you, drawn to the boat, and it's funny where Beau was very much alive in death. Gerty is very much still. It looks like her. But there's a vacancy that sends a chill down your spine, Amalia. Even as you know that you can reverse what's happened and make it right. I think there's moments where Gertie's silhouette sort of shimmers, almost flickers, like you're losing signal or something like that. But it takes her a moment to recognize you. And she just stands there, unblinking.
I think Amalia is more moved than she expected to be and suddenly has this anxiety fill her that might or might not be founded of we don't have a lot of time. All of a sudden she feels rushed. So she leans forward with her hand, the one behind her still just above the water, and it starts to move down. And Umar and Beau, you start to see that Amalia, in scrambling forward, her hand's going to go into the water.
I would like to use a weak move.
Okay.
And botch a rescue in a potentially lethal way.
How would you like to do that?
Poorly.
Lethal for who is the question.
Lethal for who is the question here. So I think Beau... We're on the water. And on the water is where Beau is most in charge. And always has been. So while he was willing to obey Amalia's rules at first, as soon as he sees Gerty floating there and sees Amalia about to touch the water and just sees it all starting to go wrong, that need for responsibility and that need to be in charge kicks in and the lifeguard kicks back in on him. And he reaches forward and puts his hand on Amalia's shoulder and pulls her back so she doesn't touch the water, while leaning forward with his hand outstretched and goes, "Gerty, come on! Just take my hand!" And by doing so has now said someone's name.
It's an instantaneous change, Beau, and to you it feels like Gerty is reacting to what you've said, to calling out her name. And there's another one of those little just like flicker moments. And when you look down again, there's a hand around your wrist, pulling itself up your arm and towards the boat. And it's a strange sensation. You physically feel sort of restricted in a way, like physically you are being grasped, but you can't focus on what is actually touching you. But you hear kind of a sputtering cough beside you in the boat almost immediately.
The arm that had hold of me, did it appear to be Gertie's arm, or does this appear to be something else coming up out of the water?
You couldn't tell. It was like your vision couldn't focus on it. It couldn't get a clear view. It all happened so quickly.
Amalia heard the name and sort of froze for a second, but isn't turning around and just says, "Okay, who's in the boat?"
I think we're all still in the boat, right?
Gerty?
I'm here. I'm here.
And
One
in a
second.
Yeah, go ahead.
1 second above the table, I actually just realized that I'm pretty sure we've all, except for Lapis, said someone's name at some
Yes.
point during this journey.
Yes.
Because I said Beau's name.
Yes,
and I
Beau's
didn't
name was
realize
said.
it.
I do remember
You
that.
all really fucked this up. I'm just
I
gonna
just
say.
said-
Player fucked up by accident?
Yeah,
I'm
Paula just said Gerty before I even had a chance, so, you know.
Thank you all for joining us for this episode. We're all dead now.
We joked about this ritual being a TPK, and we did that, though.
just wanted to bring that up above the table. That I'm pretty sure both Omar and Amalia fucked up earlier.
For sure,
Yeah.
100%. We can decide what that means if it has a longer effect for the rest of the session, or if we have to rectify that now. It's entirely up to us, because I screwed up too.
Is Lapis bringing this boat back with nobody on it?
I'm
Four
on it.
corpses. You left with
Gertie's
2, you
alive.
came back
Gertie's
with 4.
alive.
Gertie's
I'm
alive.
on it. It's fine.
I think, here's what I'll say. Because my personal desire to not make this boat trip a TPK in a game without dice, I think if you said a name, which 3 of us have,
Good job, guys.
keep that in your mind. I think the Lindworm notices. I think that is safe to say.
Great.
So we've discussed it. At this point, Gerty just wakes up and Amalia said a bad thing. But after that, Amalia goes, listen, don't say anything. Don't step off the boat. Don't touch the water. Don't say anyone's name. Don't fall asleep. Don't spill your own blood, and don't look back. And then starts rowing.
Once Beau opens his eyes, Lapis is actually going to lean over Umar and grab their arm and just like pull it over their eyes and just be like, we're almost there. Cover your eyes. And then Lapis is gonna lean back and do the same. You don't have to do this. You don't have to. You don't want to, but
I think the hand that Lapis used to have Beau cover his eyes, Beau like laces his fingers with hers, so he's got hold of her as well. Or I guess we're not allowed to do that. So by the wrist, we'll avoid the
your
exact
fingers
hand holding.
interchange between all of the friendship bracelets and
Lotteris
weird
Yeah.
shit on her arm. It gets knotted up in the crochet.
Speaking of which, as Amalia starts rowing back and like the turn is happening, Amalia goes, I'm actually going to need everyone to close their eyes.
Okay. And Omar covers their eyes.
And once everyone has a hand over their eyes, you have found the person you're looking for and return to the land of the living. Going around the circle, describe something you missed about the glorious process of being alive and what the world feels like against your body. It is warm. It is beautiful. So when you open your eyes, you're actually out of the canoe and on the shore near the edge of the woods and near the lightning-struck tree, actually. Let's go around. Since we're not in a circle, anyone can start.
I think rowing back to shore, even though Amalia hasn't turned around, it's to everyone else who can see her, it looks like she's transfixed. Just on Amalia as she continues to row. And Beau, I think you take particular note of this because you watch it happen. But I'm going to use a weak move and fall in love like a fool. And just kind of let out a satisfied sigh at sharing space with that person that you care about so much.
I think if we move back through the boat to behind Gerty, where Gerty is sitting, and helping Amalia row. You see Umar, and as we come back onto the shore, the mist kind of like fading away from the rest of the lake, fading away from this boat and from the dock. You can see this very visual like relief come over Umar's body as warmth starts to flood them. The cold of the mist, that cloying feeling of like water on their body goes away. And they realize that this warmth feels exactly the way that it did when they touched Beau's hand, when they brought it back into the boat. And for a second, they kind of look down at their own hand and then look up at Beau's back. And like warmth, just sunlight washes over their face, washes over their cheeks. And that's when it hits Umar. This is what it means to be alive.
Amalia looks down at her hands, which are still dry and caked in mud, and just remembers back to not long ago, the mud fight, and how not only how happy she was, but the fact that she wasn't thinking about anything else in that moment, that there was just a break, and thought about and thinks about now what Gerty said about just pretending that everything is fine and imagining for a moment that everything is okay. And she thinks about the fact that there are 5 people in this boat and that she did it and that everything can be fine and that the loss wasn't permanent and that things can go back to the way they were. And in this moment, she believes that. And she takes a breath and she starts to just play with the dried pieces of mud, not like crumbling them off her hands, and just smiles to herself.
I think that's the moment that you feel, sorry, Beau, a very reassuring hand just sort of like in between your shoulder blades where you're obviously still very tense. And Gerty just kind of starts rubbing a small circle in the center of your back as she sees you start to relax.
And Beau, as he steps off the boat and back onto land, just fills his lungs with the sensation of being alive again, alive some more. This knowledge that all doesn't have to be as lost as it's felt for the last few days, that together we really can face down whatever challenges there are, and that it's not just the warmth of camp, it's not just the warmth of life, it's the warmth of friendship and the people who are willing to risk it all to help you. And Beau turns back to the boat and holds his hand out to Lapise to help her out from the back of the boat.
Perfect. Because Lapise launches herself out of the boat onto you, like wraps herself around you. And the feeling that Lapise got as soon as we broke through that place, that threshold of death, the magic finally returned to her, and Lapise hadn't realized how cold and how empty she had felt until they returned to this place where the magic can fill her again. And it's almost like now, like almost like a high that Lapise is on right now. She feels like her fingertips are like live wires. Like every single part of her feels alive. And seeing everybody here alive just makes her like want to leap and jump and grab everyone and giggling. Like she is giggling. She is like, it is like kind of weird. And strangely enough, like you just watch the glitter on her face just begin to like dance in this like rainbow effect, like a strange light show on her face. And she is just so happy that everyone is here together. And we can do this. And we're alive and we can do this.
And I think when
She's still hanging on to
Lapise-
Beau like for dear life.
I think that as this feeling of vivaciousness and electricity is coming off of Lapise, Beau, or as he now views himself, having just experienced this, Beauregard, wraps his arms around Lapise and spins her in a circle before putting her back down on the beach.
Lapise pulls you down and kisses you. That happens.
Beauregard absolutely kisses her back.
Upon seeing the two of them kiss, Amalia, without thinking, just looks at Gerty and then immediately blushes and looks away and climbs out of the boat and holds out a hand for Gerty to climb out.
I don't think you make it out of the boat. I think that this is a moment where Gerty sees Lapis's boldness sort of paying off. And remembering the I don't want to say failed kiss before the mud fight, but totally the failed kiss before the mud fight. I think as Amalia kind of like reaches down to sort of help Gerty out, Gerty doesn't grab her by the arm to get assistance, but rather wraps her hand around the back of Amalia's neck and pulls her down into a kiss.
Amalia just freaks out for a second, like visibly tenses, and then like forces herself to relax, sort of half in, half out of the boat. What's Umar doing?
Yeah, I was gonna say, while this has been happening, Umar was kind of, because Omar was literally sitting in the middle of the boat. With
You're
while this
stuck
was happening.
now. Sorry.
And so behind them is Gerty and Amalia now. Kissing. In front of them is Beau and Lapis kissing, and they're just kind of like looking around like, I can't go back, I can't go forward.
Here's a panic and gay panic.
Yeah,
the panic.
I think they just kind of are there, and they're kind of sitting, like trying not to look, like trying not to watch anyone in particular, but like maybe like scanning their eyes to see if they can find any of like the campers or any of the other counselors nearby.
You know what? No, like Lapis like stops kissing Beauregard, like the natural flow of it, and turns to Umar and still giggling. And again, you can see that light show on her face. And she like looks and she sees Amalia and Gerty, and she's just like, yeah. And she grabs Umar and she pulls you out. Surprisingly strong, this little Lapis. And she like puts your hands in her face, or on your face, and she says, we can have a kiss too. And she like kisses both of your cheeks, and she's like, I'm just happy you're here. I'm always happy you're here. And you're here.
Thank you, Lapis. You can put me down. You can put me down though.
Do you want me to put you down?
Yeah, that would be nice.
I don't want to put you down.
Oh, okay. And I think Omar's just kind of like awkwardly standing there with like their face in Lapis's hands, and they're honestly like they're smiling. I think because they, one, partially out of nervousness from this situation, but also partially because they're also genuinely happy that everybody seems to have made it out whole, really, which isn't something that they were fully expecting. When Amalia said that she could bring Gerty and Beau back, there was a little part of Umar that didn't fully believe her, but they went anyway because they didn't know what else to do. And, well, they're back. And that's fucking amazing. That's a miracle.
And in this moment of happiness that the group is sharing, I'd like to invite the Lindworm to act upon
I
the
knew you were
group.
gonna fucking do that.
I have
Right.
to. Everyone was way too happy. That's not the genre.
I was about to ruin it for you if that helped.
You're like, happiness? No.
Gay panic? The Lindworm is an absolute homophobic. None of that.
Lindworm just
He
wants a
doesn't like any
boyfriend too,
happiness.
okay?
Honestly, actually, based off of the core text of Sleepaway, the Lindworm does represent real-world oppression. So in that way, the Lindworm is homophobic.
We're not actually sprinkling
Well,
that
the
in because
Lindworm
that's
is
not-
homophobia.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
is the whole thing.
This rainbow cute shit you got going on? No.
We're gonna fight it. First card, the 3 of Spades. Dance with me. Cut 5 strings from the cork board, leaving. Actually, this one doesn't mechanically work for us. I'm actually gonna remove it. Next carding one of my own cards because it won't be fun. Next one.
Out of
First one.
curiosity, what was it?
Cut 5 strings through the cork board, leaving a clean line through the
Oh.
web, which would have looked cool on my art, but wouldn't have actually done much for us. And I want us to have 3 good choices. So, our first one for real this time is the King of Diamonds. Strange massacre. Scattered droplets of blood. Drowned fish in the lake. Our second one is the Jack of Spades. They scatter like roaches before me. Destroy the camper's setting element. This does not hurt the campers. This makes us unable to play them. The last one. The Queen of Clubs. A minor character was found dead, stabbed 20 times, and covered in animal bones. Remove the minor character from the corkboard and replace it with this card. Draw. Don't look at any of that stuff. Minor character was found dead. I did a great job of editing this, guys. If you are not
follow
the
ya.
Lindworm, if you are not the Lindworm, please exit the tab. If you are, you can stay in, select one, and direct it. We have 3 face cards this time. Also, I'm
sure
looking
it's
at
fine.
my tattoo deck, so this is like the art I'm looking at on the face cards.
Not ominous at all for us, I think.
Not ominous, but also smash. That's just me. That's just Nikki. Ignore me.
I'm right there with you.
Let's play a
Horns,
game of Smash or
red skin.
Pass, you monster
I
fuckers.
mean-
Let's go.
Smash, 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 smash.
Okay.
All right, come on back, everyone. We have Strange Massacre, Scattered Droplets of Blood, Drowned Fish in the Lake, directed at everyone.
Sorry.
So we're all here at the edge of the lake. I'd like us to describe what we see, and then we'll go to break for real fast.
I would, if it's okay with everybody, the scattered droplets of blood, can we reinterpret that, or can we be a little bit loose about it as like rain?
Yeah, I'd be good
Yeah,
with that.
sure. So I think it starts to pour.
I think at first, when we're on this shore, on this kind of a beach, not really a beach, standing there, kissing, happy, holding each other, reveling in our success. I think at first it's you, Gerty, where you feel a drop hit your forehead. And you probably don't really think too much about it. I mean, maybe it's gonna rain, and then you feel a second one, and a third one. Slowly at first. And it isn't until the drops start to go down your face, and you start to, out of the corner of your eye, see that they're not clear the way that water is clear, but you think you see red. And maybe you pull away from Amalia in this moment to like take a closer look at it. And that's when I think everybody starts to notice, as it starts to rain harder and harder and harder, that the rain is red and has a coppery smell to it, metallic, rusty. And if anyone has their mouth open, I think you can, and if the blood kind of like comes into your mouth, you can like taste it. You like sour pennies in your mouth.
Apis had her mouth open in her jubilation, like, oh yes, it's raining, great, mouth open, that whole, and then immediately regretted it.
I think Gerty kind of leans back from Amalia, taking in the fact that this unnatural rain is falling from the sky, and sort of looks up and then meets your eye line, Amalia, and just hands sort of on your shoulders, squeezes lightly, and just says, "You really did it. You brought us back. You brought me back."
And with that, we're going to take a quick break. I'd like to once again quickly thank our sponsors, Die Hard Dice, 1985 Games, and Session Zero Clothing. Thank you so much for making this game possible, and check out the chat for links. We'll see you soon.
Easy to.
I'm bored.
We can go scream at the cat for another hour.
Nah, I'm tired of screaming at the cat.
Shut up with that! Be bored no more with 1985 Games. Enjoy their vast variety of products and help bring your tabletop to a whole new level. With easy-to-use dungeon sticky notes. The deck of stories holds prompts and adventure hooks for any setting, and thousands of cutout game pieces with their dungeon craft.
You've come all this way for nothing, fool! The princess is mine!
You'll never get away with this, Malachor!
Write everything down in your Hero Notes journal and start your adventure today! Visit the World Wide Web address 1985games.com and find many helpful products such as their Dungeon Craft series, battle maps, deck of stories, miniatures, dungeon notes, and now VHS dice. Again, that's 1985games.com.
And welcome back to Sleepaway. A reminder that this is a horror game, and you might see some body horror, insects, occult themes, drama, romance, terrifying monsters, and potentially character death. That's kind of already happened. Please take care of yourselves. This is the last episode, so things might get very dark. Keep that in mind. So, we're all here on the dock, kissing. And it is now raining blood. What are we doing?
Lapis spits out the blood that she accidentally drank because she excited, thought it was rain. It's not. And she spits it out and she wipes her mouth and she says, "It's happening. We need to go. Amalia, we need to go and stop it."
Gerty, in your arms, Amalia returns to being cold. For a moment, in the joy of the return, her cheeks flushed up and, of course, was blushing heavily throughout the last few minutes. She's now very cold again, like she was before. Yeah, okay.
I think as Amalia kind of gets cold, there's a moment where she exhales, where her breath actually does the crystallization thing like cold weather. And through that, I think Gerty is going to see old Benji with a trail of campers behind him. Speaking to them very emphatically through this blood storm that seems to be happening with this metallic rain. And he's leading them back sort of along the old path that goes between the rocks, the sort of sheer drop-off cliff face where people thought they saw the witch a few years ago, and the tree line by the old cabins, and then the oldest tree in the forest is that direction too. But it's a path that isn't really used anymore, primarily because it's not as safe as it once was, and especially in slick conditions and this unnatural rain. I think there's a moment of sheer panic where Gerty is going to communicate with silence better than words can and just point over Amalia's shoulder in that direction.
Amalia looks and sees that something strange is going on, and for the second time attempts to hold a hand out to Gerty to cross a threshold and get out of the boat.
I think Gertie is going to look at you confused for just a moment and then look around and notice that they are in the boat on the lake and almost remember that that's something that they don't like, and then immediately take Amalia's hand and step up onto the dock.
You get a token for that. And I think Amalia just grabs on with both hands to your arm, just kind of attaching herself to you. Okay, we should figure out what that is. It's not good.
Omar, as it started raining, I think is like wiping blood like off of their face and like out of their eyes. And when Lapis said, "It's happening again, we need to act now," they look up at Lapis, and I'm going to use a strong move, and they ask in character, "What can I do to help?"
And Lapis looks at you, and her eyes are glowing. Like, that blue is glowing, the gold is glowing, and she says, "We must remember, we must protect. Grab what you can, and we run towards the woods. Campers. Stop this."
Okay. I will follow your lead, all of your lead, and do my best.
Amalia turns to Beau. Are you good? You ready to do this?
And there's something in Beau that seems a little different than how he was the last few days. There's something about Beau that just seems more stoic and ready. And Beauregard looks you directly in the eyes, and he gives a nod and sort of shifts slightly, and you realize that there's a sheath attached to his belt that you don't remember being there before. And he says, "I'm ready."
Okay. And Amalia starts to walk towards the woods, just sort of alongside Gerty.
Lapis is picking up things off of the ground and attaching them to, like, her pockets, to any part of her. She finds a washed up star sticker and puts that in her pocket. Her trunk seeming to come out of nowhere. She grabs and she just slings it onto her back. And then she grabs the ends of their shirts, Beauregard and Umar, and she says, "We need to make sure everyone's safe. Magic can't help us as much as I would like."
Amalia, when seeing Lapis sort of gather all these supplies, turns to Gerty, sort of remembering, like, well, what, like, I don't have anything. I don't have, like, Beau has this sword, and is just looking at everyone. Gerty, what was that letter about? The one I found that you took back. I mean, I noticed it was your handwriting, and I didn't want to ask before, but do you still have it?
You're muted.
Muted. It's good acting, though.
I do. And Gerty reaches into her pocket and pulls out the letter. And unfolds it. Seemingly reading it again. This doesn't make any sense.
The letter? Did you not write it?
It says I wasn't coming back.
Well, clearly that's wrong, so.
This doesn't make any sense.
I mean, do you remember writing it?
No. No, it's not important.
Okay.
We should go.
Yeah, okay.
And Gerty and Amalia, normally where you and Gerty kind of have these brief exchanges where there's things spoken in the silence and in the nuance, it all just seems very hollow now.
Amalia is going to use the weak move, stay silent when you should be speaking up, and not say anything, because to say something would be to acknowledge that something might be wrong, and that is too much for Amalia to acknowledge at the moment. And just says, I'm glad to have you back. Come on.
If we're getting stuff, we should stop by the field where we put your... And Omar looks over at Lapis, where we put your spellcraft, right? The charm, the web.
Lapis actually she holds up the trunk, and she like now it has straps to put on. She's like, I got it.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
The magic. It
Right. Still getting used to that.
It will do this. And then there's a moment where Lapis just stops, and that golden eye, just the golden eye, not the other one, turns towards the camper's bunk. And I'm going to use a strong move to find something dreadfully and hunkered under one of under the stairs of the camper's cabins, you see a figure hunched, staying out of the blood rain. And it is, oh my god, no, go to the table so I can pronounce their name correctly. Anahara. And they are looking at us, and their eyes are wide as everything is happening. And Lapis then turns to you, Umar, and she says, "You can speak to her. She has something." And Lapis touches your arm and says,
Okay. Okay. And Omar walks over to Anahara, jogging over to them. And they kind of, panting a little bit, say, Hey, Anahara.
Hey, what's going on?
Don't worry about it. It's just some strange weather, I think. Might be some sort of pollution coming off of the factory that's nearby, that's in town.
Then why would old Benji lead the rest of the kids out if the rain is bad?
I don't think it'll actually hurt you in any way. I think it might just taste a little weird. Don't open your mouth in outside. Yes, exactly. Perfect. Anahara, what you should do is take everyone that you can find, all of your friends, even the people that aren't your friends, and go into the bunks, okay? I know old Benji is taking kids out into the woods, but I think it's better to be inside, okay?
Yeah, okay. If I do this, do you think I could maybe be a CIT next year? I was thinking about it, and I know it's a weird time to ask.
We can talk about it, Anahara. You're definitely one of the more, I think, natural leaders amongst the campers. We can talk about it, for sure.
Okay, and she's using the move from the campers setting element. Remind everyone what they're fighting for. And with Anahara mentioning next year, suddenly this moment, which has been just this moment, we need to get through this. You realize the campers are already planning next year and thinking about the things they're going to do, and maybe probably talking even about school coming back, and there's other things to be done, and that the campers haven't even thought about this moment being an end of anything, just the next things. Are you going to be out?
We need to just go gather the other campers and make sure that everyone comes inside. So yeah, the other counselors and I are just gonna do the rounds, okay?
Could you do me a favor?
Yeah. Anything.
And tied around her waist is a jean jacket with patches, and they untie it and hold it out. Can you, I know Gomez went out with old Benji because they were doing sports. Could you just give this to Gomez?
Yeah.
And then he'll give it back to me later.
I'll make sure that Gomez gets this back to you. Inside, remember?
Yes, inside. I'll get everyone, even the people I don't like. And sort of scrambles out from under the stairs and starts making their way to other cabins.
And Omar just kind of like takes this big, deep sigh, thinking and like muttering to themselves, "We can do this. We can protect them. Everything will be okay." And they like run back to the group, jean jacket in hand. I think kind of like tucked under their shirt almost in an attempt to like prevent it from getting rained on.
Lapis like touches where that jacket is. Can't let it happen. Can't let what happened to her brother happen. Keep it safe. Okay.
Beau, what were you gonna say? Or Beauregard?
Beauregard.
Of course.
So Beauregard is looking at Umar as they came back up with this jacket and have this interaction. And he kind of just gives this nod that's not quite appraising. It's almost more like it's proud. And he's like, "You're really good with them. We're lucky to have you here."
Oh. Thanks. I wasn't expecting that from you, actually.
I think it's time there are some things that we put behind us. You're a counselor now, and irresponsible people don't choose to be counselors. You chose this. You're good for this.
Thank you, Beau. And I think at hearing Beau call them like a counselor, which maybe this is the first time actually that Beauregard has ever actually acknowledged that Umar is in fact a counselor. They put their hand kind of like tentatively, if Beauregard will allow it, on his arm. And I think when they make contact, that same kind of feeling of warmth like fills both of them, reminding them that they are alive, at least for now.
And Beau in turn puts his hand on Umar's shoulder and doesn't say anything, just kind of gives that like we're in it together, kind of like squeeze and shake that teenage boys do kind of thing. And it's just like, let's do this.
And I think that is sufficient for you to have activated the lure of acknowledging what you can learn from me, so you get a token.
Yeah.
First time Beau's ever acknowledged that.
My babies! You're not my babies. Just I'm so proud.
I think with that, we head over and we end up at the old bunks, and we can hear sort of murmuring from inside. There are two old bunks, one of which it has since caved in for fungus-related reasons, but the other one, the door is shut and we can hear noises inside. Nothing distressed, just chatting, almost. I feel like it always ends up being here, so...
What always ends up being here?
Oh, I mean, you know, Umar saw it here, and the mushrooms. I mean, it had to have been from that, right?
The mushrooms.
It's
It's always here.
I've never wanted to do an insight check more. But indeed, she believes it. Yeah, Right. We probably don't need to talk about that.
Talk about what?
Never mind. And just holds Gertie a bit closer, hoping that will help. And yes, Dan.
I'm just going to use a regular move in this moment where the communication seems to be faltering between Gertie and between Amalia, and ask, what does your character still fight for?
This is fine. And
This is
Amalia,
fine.
What an answer! What an answer!
Just leave it there. End the sentence.
I will add clarification. Gertie taught Amalia that everything was fine once and it will be again. And that is what Amalia is fighting for, that everything was okay and that it will be again. And to acknowledge anything permanent has changed is just, death is not the end. Clearly it wasn't. And so everything's fine and it's going to be fine again. And her and Gertie are going to go back to the same neighborhood and carpool to school. And that's fine. She's just traumatized at this point. It'll wear off. It'll be fine. And that's what she's fighting for, is to go back to normal.
I think as you sort of have that dawning realization wash over you, I'm going to use another regular move real quick, and then I'll let you do the thing you actually wanted to do. And just say, if something bad happens, you can always bring us back again. So that's my move, say something profound and cryptic.
Amalia uses a weak move, shut down your own emotions, and chooses not to respond to that. She's lost too much already. Does not want to go back on the lake. We should go in. Take care of this.
I'll do it wrong. Or at least.
I think, uncharacteristically, Gertie is going to lead this particular charge. Seeing how tense everyone is, has motivated her. And I feel like she just walks up and swings the door open and steps inside.
As you do, Lapis just, like, in your hood of your jacket. Do you have a jacket?
No,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
wearing a World of Warcraft t-shirt.
That's right.
For the Horde.
For the Horde. Lapis is going to slip that very sandy star sticker into your front pocket. Just slide that in there. As she uses a regular move, teach someone a small charm for good luck. But just now you have the gold star. It's yours now. Enjoy that.
I think it falls out of a hole.
You have a hole in your pocket? Why do you have a hole in your pocket?
Gertie would.
Look, my pants zip into like 5 sections. I can't be held responsible for mending everything that gets fucked up.
It's a magic star and it will not fall out of your pocket. You got it. You have to,
You will
It's now
find out.
stuck to the inside of your pocket.
Okay.
As
you can absolutely lose
Gertie
it.
enters the old bunks, I think followed by everyone else, presumably, I think you see sort of sitting in various locations, kind of perched on benches or old broken bunks, are a selection of the campers who appear to be frozen in time. Just staring out. They don't seem distressed. Like, you can see Gomez, who has his finger just like inches away from someone else, clearly playing I'm Not Touching You, and someone like moving away but kind of laughing. You see a couple of the smaller campers like holding each other but kind of grinning a little bit. Almost the faces you recognize are the kinds of faces you remember seeing around the campfire during Scary Stories, of just like consensual fear, of like they were brought out here for something and they seem to be into it to a certain degree. But you also see in the center, unfrozen, Benji, with his arms just sort of out, kind of welcoming, but not saying anything. But you also notice that his eyes are entirely black. But you can tell he's almost looking at all of you. And for the audience, so you know what we're trying to do here, we are trying to find strengths in what we found along this journey to counteract the power that the Lindworm has over us. For every strength, there's always a weakness. But if we can find enough strength, we'll be okay. And in this moment of fear and confusion, as someone familiar looks just not, maybe more than one person, but we have yet to figure that out, maybe. Does anyone have something they want to do to gain strength in this moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Lapis lunges forward, takes her giant steamer trunk, like, crafter kit, and just hurl it at him, and just says, "How dare you? You have been here for years, and your jaded, rotting bullshit will not get in the way of these campers having a wonderful summer." And yeah, she just hurls that whole kit at him, so like beads and glitter and an iron, like a steamer iron, comes hurling out of this kit, and it goes like at him, and it falls to his feet, and it doesn't hit him, but out spilling from the trunk are the campers' like arts and crafts projects. This very clear image of togetherness that the campers had throughout for the duration of the summer up until this point. Friendship bracelets, collages of them all holding hands, learning the responsibility and honesty and all of those things. And it is the strength of the camp being one together.
I think you hurl this chest and all of these art projects kind of go flying out. And for a moment, it's a very overwhelming display of togetherness and strength. But as those projects begin hitting the floor and catching on people's fingertips, you see those daisy chains start to rip, and those projects begin to shatter on the floor. Because for everything that is together now, those connections can be fleeting.
And I think seeing this, Beauregard steps up next to Lapis, and around his hands is that woven cat's cradle web that he got so tangled up in when they first tried, but now he appears to have a dexterity that he didn't have before. As he begins tying it into the patterns he's seen Lapis do before. And it's clear that there's always something we can learn, even from the people we don't automatically connect with, even from the people whose talents don't always ring true with us. There's always something more to be found. And Beau hurls this directly in Benji's face, this complex pattern.
As you do that, the cat's cradle, it seems to hit Benji in the face, but as soon as it makes contact with it, the knots start to unfurl and undo themselves, and it starts to look like string adorning a Christmas tree on Benji. And he seems completely unaffected, because as much as there is so much for us to learn, there's also so much for us to learn. It's overwhelming, the sheer complexity of it all. It's hard to follow exactly, like, where you're supposed to go, who you're supposed to be, what's the right thing to do. even in any given situation? How do you know? How can you tell? And I think that as you watch the cat's cradle starting to unravel, you start to feel this sense of, like, this overwhelming sense of dread at the enormous task in front of you right now, staring at you in the face.
I think Gerty kind of looks sideways at you for a moment, Amalia, and you hear the crinkling of paper as her grip tightens on the letter she had written you last year. And she just, there's a moment of understanding in her eyes. And she says, I came back for you. This is where you were. And she drops the letter and takes sort of a half step in front of you, Amalia, to shield you from Benji in that moment. Realizing that even when we're scared, it is important to take care of those who you love. And that's what gives us our bravery.
But also, Gerty, you wrote that letter not knowing if you would be back, because you did not know if your love would be requited. And there is that doubt. And even knowing that someone cares about you, you will never truly know their inner thoughts. And that single bit of doubt will always gnaw at you. And then it will always exist in that letter.
And Umar pulls out this jean jacket from underneath their shirt, Anahara's jean jacket. And they look at it, holding it delicately in their hands like it's something sacred. Like it's something to be protected, the way that the campers need to be protected. And I think this item is not one that is meant to be used to attack the Lindworm necessarily, but one to be used to protect us, to protect the campers. And so Omar steps forward towards Beau, who I think maybe is closest to them, and tries to put this jean jacket over their shoulders. It's probably too small to actually fit you properly, but just like a little cape over your shoulders, a reminder of the way in which the campers' love, their excitement, their innocence, their youth gives us life, helps protect us, just as we protect them.
But in that moment, you realize something else, which is that the campers do bring youth and innocence and something to fight for, but it reminds you almost immediately what you don't have anymore. That you can fight for others all you want, but what's lost is lost, and there's some pieces of yourself you are never getting back. And I think in that moment, Amalia notices on the ground, having fallen out of a hole in Gerty's pocket, a small shining gold star sticker. And starts to reach for it and then hesitates, knowing what will happen if she touches it, and puts a hand under her shirt and uses like grabby hands so that she's not making any contact with so she's not actually touching it, and picks it up and just sticks it on the back of Gerty's shoulder, acknowledging that it has its own protection and its own power. And although Amalia can't directly interface with it or cause it, that everyone shows their care and protection in their own way. and that has its own power, even if it's not the way that you're capable of showing that care and protection.
I think when go ahead, Beau.
No, you go. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think when you touch Gertie's shoulder, she glances back at you for a second, a look of confusion on her face. And as you pull your hand back, you realize that to her, it probably seemed like you were pushing her forward towards the threat. And you realize that no matter how hard you try and no matter how hard you hold on, you can't save everybody.
And Beauregard, still one of the closer people to old Benji, looks down at this craft trunk with its innards spilled all over the floor, and with what seems to be a foreknowledge, he puts his boot on the back of it and kicks it so it's now fully splayed forward. And instead of more artwork spilling out of it, the taxidermy tools spill out, landing across Benji's feet with a clatter. And they were a scary thing when the counselors first found them. But instead of letting it tear them apart, instead of letting it cause more fights, instead they all came together to do Lapise's ritual. Even Amalia, who couldn't touch it, stood by and lent her strength to it.
But it is still a sign of death. What will happen when we all die and something takes our bodies and uses it for their sick, sick game?
As we're growing desperate, things starting to fall away, nothing seems to be working, Umar looks around, and on the ground, next to a frozen Bernard, they happen to see Bernard's inhaler. And they lunge forward and quickly grab it. And they turn around on their feet, kind of like pivoting. And as they do so, they chuck the inhaler at Benji's head. This inhaler reminding us all of, quite literally, how difficult it is to hold on to life. How difficult it is to keep the air inside of our lungs, but that we do it, and we do it for each other. We fight every single day. And I think this kind of throw that Umar is lobbing at old Benji, it's kind of behind it is the memory of the ritual, of the death ritual, the resurrection ritual with Amalia, of remembering how close we were to losing Gerty and losing Beau, but that we kept them here, and we are not going to lose anybody.
When the inhaler is thrown, it hits Benji right in the temple, and he takes a step back, actually stepping through a rotten floorboard, and hits the ground with the same kind of thud of Umar hitting the ground when they were reaching for the inhaler to rescue it off of the ropes course. Just the hard, singular thud, and partially falls into the floor. And for a moment there is stillness. But where life is what everyone here is fighting for and what we all have and how precious it is, you realize there are some things that are beyond breathing and life. And one of those things is the Lindworm. It doesn't die in the same way that we do, not with that much ease. Its all it represents is a prolonged, endless life that takes much more than just a lack of breath to take away. And from Benji's lifeless body, two impossibly long arms burst forth and place themselves on either side of the cabin. And the Lindworm pulls itself up, and you see it hunched over as it's too tall to stand in front of us all.
Can I use a move here, or are we still using items?
This can be a scene too. There's no rules.
I got ideas. So I would like to use one of Gerty's regular moves and lash out at someone by using the woods as a weapon. I think that with us being in the old cabin, deep within the rot of this forest, I think the Lindworm has gotten so used to causing that desiccation that they've grown overly confident in their ability to deal with it. And as the Lindworm kind of pulls themselves up, I think that the rotten floorboards cave just a little bit further and stir up a mass of brambles and roots that had been growing en masse underneath the cabin, pulling it down by its foundation. And it envelops the Lindworm.
With the Lindworm trapped in this bramble of roots and gnarled branches, Omar turns to look at Beau and frantically yells out, "Beau! It's now or never! You have a sword!"
And Beauregard, hearing this, draws this sword from his side. And it comes free, and it doesn't look like any sword you've ever seen before. Rather than shining metal, it looks more like pounded stone. The handle of it formed of roots and tangles. It looks like it was born of the earth itself. And Beau dives forward, and I will also use a move, or just narrate it. It's a regular move, take action, leaving yourself vulnerable. As he comes forward with a two-handed strike, intending to drive this down into the heart of whatever this creature is.
What is your strength in this moment?
My strength in this moment is strength. It's the fact that Beauregard will always put himself in harm's way. He will always step up when someone tells him it's now or never. Beau was the personification of responsibility. Beauregard is the personification of strength.
As you swing down, you land a hit, which is surprising given that this creature sort of feels like shadow covered in tree bark. But you manage to hit one of the limbs. But you realize in that moment that although you are strength now, the strength of one is never going to be enough. There isn't one person with a sword that can take the Lindworm down. But you are pinned by your sword into the brambles yourself. And is there anything else you want to describe about what happens to Beau in this moment?
I'm willing to leave it up to the group. I think in this moment, Beau is a little bit frozen. Clearly, he expected this to work.
As Beau stabs the Lindworm, which startles Lapis because that's never happened before. She has that moment where she remembers the last time, and she runs up just as the Lindworm is looks like it's about to strike or do something. And she looks at it, really looks at it, and she says, "The last time we were here, I gave one sight for another. I will do it again, so that you will never put sight on these children." And literally, like, so she's using like a regular move to take action but leave herself vulnerable. And if people are cool with it, she runs up, covering over Beau, and digs out her golden eye. So she is I'm tearing away the mismatched eyes on my character sheet.
And what is the strength? Is it the sight from the magic?
It's the sight from the magic that Lapis has always had, that Lapis has always been able to see, that no one else has been able to see. And that magic, both in the physical form that has always existed in this camp, but also that sight to lead the children towards that youthful magic that children always seem to have, that they never really lose until things like the Lindworm show up. Lapis is happily able to give away her sight if it means that the children will be able to keep theirs.
How is that a weakness? Anyone? I'm happy to take it. I mean, I think with that moment giving up the gold eye, Lapis will no longer be able to participate in magic. The connection, which had been spotty at best in the past few days, is finally severed.
I think that with so many direct assaults being laid upon the Lindworm, this is the moment where Gerty looks to the campers, frozen, seemingly. And she takes note of Gomez, who has this little, it's an old, like, cat skull that Gerty had kept at the ropes course. She named it, like, she'd make it talk every once in a while. And
no wonder the kids thought you were a witch.
Maybe I am, you don't know. And she just sort of like gingerly takes that out of Gomez's palm because he's sort of holding it up in the air. Really happily, too. Loves dead shit, that kid. And instead of chucking this skull directly at the Lindworm, I think Gerty sort of slides it across the floor beneath the limbs of this creature to try and throw it off balance. The strength here being the longevity of what they create here at camp, be it memories, an experience, a lifelong love of the woods or the lake or another camper or something, the longevity, the fact that what they do, however insignificant it may seem at the time, is going to live on in some way, shape, or form.
That longevity only lasts as long as people's memories, though. And if there's anything that we've learned this summer during this year of Camp Clear Heights, it's that memory is fallible. It's so easy to forget. It's so easy to want to forget. Is there any guarantee that the work that you've done, the impact that you've had, any legacy you think you're going to leave is actually going to last? There isn't. And I think, Gerty, you feel that familiar cold chill start to creep up around the area that we're in as you are reminded about the comfort in being numb, in being forgotten, and in forgetting.
Amalia seeing Gerty do something in this moment, and she hasn't really done much. She looks around herself and around her to see if there's anything she can grab, and she doesn't see anything. She hasn't been gathering items. She sort of feels lost for a moment and then looks at Gerty, having a realization of some sort, having just slid the cat's skull. And she's reminded of one of the things on her character sheet, which the relationship question, what do we spend our time outside camp doing together? And I wrote Girl Scout pairs, government assigned best friends for her and Gerty. And she realizes in that moment that one way or another, that's never happening again. Either this is ending here and one of them doesn't make it out and one of them has to go home alone, or they just kissed. So suddenly she just has this realization of like that kind of feeling you get as a young adult where you're like, did I just ruin a friendship? Like, I didn't think about the ramifications of this. Like, what changed? What's lost? And in that moment, she just decides it's all lost. Like, that's not happening again. That kind of friendship, the sort of quiet silence they both sat in for so long during the year is over, and she'll destroy that part of her character sheet, but she gains the strength of no longer feeling the need to hold on to everything as it was, that the people around her are going to change and make their own choices, and she can't save everyone, that's for sure, but she also can't save everyone the way they were. There's no stopping someone in time and keeping them, and that is very freeing to her. And she'll go in and just put a hand on Gerty's shoulder.
I think that when you go to put a hand on Gerty's shoulder, given everything that's happening and everything that's happened today, Gerty flinches. And that feeling that you had that was warm and fuzzy not a moment before suddenly turns cold and alienating as you realize that, yeah, you did just change things forever, didn't you? And what if it doesn't work out like you'd hoped? And what if now you are well and truly alone?
Amalia's hand turns nearly to ice, but she doesn't let go.
I think that Amalia's cold hand on Gerty's shoulder it doesn't just turn cold. I think it actually frosts up just a little bit, physically cementing their connection. And I think that the piece of Gerty that's going to fall away at this moment was the piece that ran into the woods frightened from a bully many years ago. The piece that was never really brave enough to stand up to Beau. The piece that hummed that awful rhyme to herself over and over again that entire summer. Gerty, Gerty, not so purty, sleeps in trees and wakes up dirty. And I think that physically being cemented and steadied and a part of Amalia in this moment gives her the strength of realizing she's never going to be alone again.
But Gerty, you have always been alone. That's your natural state of being. You grew up alone. You've existed alone. Even with your friends around, you have always felt alone. And you get this sickening feeling that even though you have just been brought back, you will die alone. And that thought fills your heart with ice.
I want to add on too, when that thought occurs to you, Gerty, you realize the bond that's being forged between you and Amalia in this moment that's holding you together is forged in ice. And in the ice of Our Lady Oubliette, who I think has chosen another favorite, holding two people alone together.
And as everybody comes together to defeat the Lindworm, to fight the Lindworm, Umar sees Beau stuck with his swords inside of this bramble that is surrounding the Lindworm, surrounding old Benji as the Lindworm, and they come up behind Beau and they hold on to their wrist and they say, "Push with me." As the two of them, I think, kind of like push with all of their might, throw their whole weight into it and try and cut through these branches that are these rotting roots that are surrounding the Lindworm and piercing the Lindworm's actual flesh. And in this moment, I think if you, Beau, were to turn back and look at Umar, you notice that their eyes, their once very playful looking eyes, don't have that same light to them anymore. There's a depth, a darkness to them that wasn't there before. It's the realization that this world is not as safe or as nice or as light as they once thought it was. This is the light of a camper leaving Umar's eyes as the two of you plunge the blade right into the Lindworm. And I think the strength in this moment for Umar is that realization of growing up. It's the maturity, it's the wisdom that comes with truly knowing what's out there and what needs to be done.
And there is no weakness to that, because with that action, the Lindworm breaks apart into these small black wisps that move and turn into this black mist, which then turns white, and everything kind of floats and evaporates up. And there is nothing there in the brambles and in the rotten floorboards.
Did we do it?
Yep. All done. Good job, everyone.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Umar, Lapiz, grab a camper. We gotta start getting them out of here.
Miss Lapis, is your eye okay?
Nope. I have pink eye. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Everyone's gonna get
You
pink
should
eye.
really go see a doctor about that. My dad is a doctor, and I'm sure he'd be able to help you with your pink eye if you wanted him to.
I don't want your dad to help me with the doctor. Thank you, though.
Who took my cat skull? Where is my cat skull?
Oh, that's...
Where's my inhaler?
here.
I need my... Oh, God. Where's my inhaler?
Well, there's a big hole in the floor now.
All right, there's nothing to see here, everybody. The big hole in the floor is going to get patched up. It's dangerous. You might fall in, so let's move. I think we should all...
No.
ground.
Everyone listen to Umar. They're in charge right now. Out of the cabin.
Oh, fine. I want my skull, though.
Gomez, do you mind stepping back for just 1 second?
Yeah, what?
Ooh, you're in trouble.
No, Gomez is not in trouble.
Ooh.
Sorry about that, Gomez. I actually have something for you. Anahara wanted you to have this. Not permanently, they made that very clear, but just for now. And Umar hands Gomez their Anahara's jean jacket.
Gomez immediately flushes red. Anahara?
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fine. Yeah, thank you. That's totally... Thank you. And just walks around you and exits the cabin.
They make a cute couple.
Right? Oh my god. I try not to ship the campers, but sometimes they just...
They're the cutest. And I think as the campers are heading out, Beauregard and Lapise and Umar just kind of stand together at the door, looking back on this sight of everything that just happened. And knowing that it was really the friendship between the three of them. Between all the counselors coming together in this moment. That's really what gave us the strength to do this.
Omar, stretches out their arms and puts one around Beau's shoulders, I think. Kind of looks up. Well, we have a lot of work to do. But, honestly, not so bad that we have to do it together.
Yeah.
It'll be great. I have to get an eye patch. You look at Lapise and, there's still glitter on her face. Very obviously, still crafty lady, but it's not as bright as it used to be. But good job. All right. I need to go to the nurse's office to get a bandage for this. And she looks back at the cabin. She's like, I feel like I'm missing somebody.
I don't think so.
Come on, let's get you patched up.
And as Lapis is walking back, I think Omar just kind of goes, and just lean into the pirate jokes. They're coming. You know that they are.
Oh, I hope so. I don't think I can, with only one eye, I don't think I can actually do the crafting stuff anymore, but I think next year, I might come back as the song leader, do a bunch of pirate shanties. That'll really get the kids going.
I mean, I think you can craft with one eye, but if you want to be the pirate shanty person, you can.
I would love to be the pirate shanty person.
I think next year, I'm going to apply to be the ropes keeper. I mean, we never filled the position this summer, and the kids never got to play.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great idea. You're definitely strong enough to definitely take over those ropes course. Very brave.
Hey, I guess that means the lifeguard position's open, eh?
You'd be a great lifeguard.
Better than you.
Hey, now! And I feel like this banter just sort of continues as these three walk off into the afternoon sun.
And with that, I think that's where we'll leave this story for now. I want to quickly thank everyone who tuned in Thanks to our subscribers, our supporters on Patreon, and of course to these incredibly talented players, whether we remember them or not. And if you're interested in learning more about Gehenna Gaming, join our Discord or visit gehennagaming.com. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening.